Are you okay? Have you brought a cup of tea or coffee with you today?
Coffee.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Some big mug.
Any special requirements or just bog standard?
Just nice coffee. Yeah.
Sometimes I treat myself to a sugar, but not today.
Yeah, no.
Friday.
I know. It's wild.
So, little introduction. Dan, you are a self-shooting producer director, and Amelia, an assistant producer. And you both worked on this Channel 4 documentary, Rachel Nickell, Death on the Common, My Mother's Murder, which went out last week. So we're here today to talk about that documentary, but I kind of just wanted to find out a bit more about how you both got here. How did you end up working on this documentary? So tell me a little bit about your sort of the things you've done in the past. Amelia, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I started out doing like mostly current affairs because I did a journalism degree and that's what I wanted to get into. And then it kind of just branched out into all sorts really, like into like Fact 10 and then yeah, but I guess like Obstock is the area that I'm most interested in. So then when Fran told me about this, I was really it sounded really, really interesting, and yeah, I was just really up for it.
Amazing. And Dan?
Yeah, similarly, a mixture of Obstock and kind of current affairs as I was starting out. And I started out in development and then kind of shot lots of taster tapes and then got into Obstock. And then I've done bits of current affairs and then kind of more kind of docky current affairs. And then over the last couple of years, I've done a couple of these kind of singles and yeah, mainly documentaries though. And I'd say Obstock and current affairs are the kind of like my main background.
Yeah, and so have you managed to sort of stay working in the north and being able to build your CV up with those strong kind of credits?
I have, yeah. I mean, there was a moment where I thought I'd have to go and move to London, but luckily I didn't have to. And yeah, I think I've been really fortunate in that I've been able to kind of stay quite close to those areas. I've done, you know, the odd random thing, I suppose, that's a bit away from that, but mainly I've been able to do that, and I think that's kind of stood me in good stead in a lot of ways, you know. But it's hard because there aren't as many opportunities in those areas up here. You know, you might, I don't know, you might not get an easier ride in London, but there are more companies making those sort of programs. There's no getting away from that. So it's trickier in that respect, but that's changing though. There are lots of people moving up, and there are lots of big indies starting to base themselves up here, and you know, so hopefully there'll be more and more opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, so this was a co-pro, wasn't it, with Hatchling Films, which is Fran Baker's new Manchester indie, and then was it Angel Station and Monumental Pictures? So how did that come about? How did that work? What was the whole? Tell me a little bit about if you were involved with the commissioning process. Basically, how did this come about? Where did the idea come from?
Well, I think it's. I might be, correct me if I'm wrong here, Amelia. So because I was involved with the commissioning process, but I mean, it came about because Alex and Andre had a relationship with Monumental, who employed John York, who's a drama exec. And originally, I think they were trying to write a drama about the story. And that kind of transformed into a documentary, I think, through discussions with Channel 4. And then Fran came on board as a kind of, obviously seasoned documentary maker, and I think that's where it kind of all started from, really. And you know, it started, I think, from Alex and Andre having those relationships with the channel and with John York. Is that right, Amelia? I think it's right.
And so, I mean, firstly, like, congratulations on a really kind of, you know, amazing documentary. It's very, very poignant and very touching, and, you know, very incredible kind of journey, really. It's an authored film, isn't it? And it tells the story of Rachel Nickell's murder through the eyes of her son Alex, who witnessed the murder. So I suppose, firstly, you know, what was it like working alongside such a amazing contributor? I mean, he's very calm, isn't he? And I think that's how he's been described by reviews as well. So, you know, tell me about how it was like, what it was like to work with him, and what about this idea of it being an authored film from his perspective and him kind of like leading the narrative?
It was great, obviously, working with Andre and Alex, and you know, right from the start, when I first heard about it, you think actually we're really privileged to kind of be making this film with them, and for them to be kind of allowing us into their lives effectively, and you know, in a way that, you know, they've never really done before, and in a way that, you know, is quite exposing to them, you know. And it was such a high profile incident at the time, that, you know, the whole nation kind of knew about it. And, you know, it's one of these stories that's been kind of retold again in various documentaries, but never in this form with Andre and Alex. So, you know, right from the start, it was, you know, wow, brilliant, you know, great to be on board. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's been tricky the whole way through, because they've had, you know, various kind of run-ins with the press and the media over the years, and, you know, we had to basically handle them with real care, and, you know, build up a real high level of trust with them, because, you know, they've been burnt many times, you know. And also, you know, that they're used to people from the media turning up at their door and trying to grab a story out of them. And, you know, half of our battle, I think half of the battle me and Amelia had, was getting to know them and getting them to understand where we're coming from, and getting them to understand that, you know, we all wanted to make a good film, and, you know, they wanted to make a good film as well. So, you know, we spent a long time chatting about it, didn't we, really, Amelia, before we even did anything. And Amelia was on the project before me, and, you know, I think spent months on Zoom calls with them, and because they live in Barcelona. So, you know, it was a long process even before we kind of started filming.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, Amelia, do you want to talk a little bit about that? How you kind of like managed to, you know, even before you pressed record, kind of build up that relationship with them?
I think it was just a very slow process, and like Dan was saying, I don't think Alex and Andre will mind us saying that, you know, it's difficult for them to trust anyone in the media because of what they've been through. You know, they've had their whole lives intruded, you know, since '92. So it was a difficult process, trying just, you know, just earning their trust, really. And, you know, once that was earned, it was amazing, because it meant that, you know, we could go to places with them that, you know, well, we just felt really privileged to be able to go to certain places with them. You know, like we went to the spot where Rachel was sadly murdered with Alex. You know, we watched them, you know, they wrote a letter to her that they burned there, you know. And there's kind of, you know, a few different spots which wasn't even shown in the film. But yeah, I think it's just a testament to Dan as well, because, you know, it's for people who have had their lives intruded on, you know, their entire life, and then to make a film with them, that's a difficult process, you know, for anyone. So it was amazing that they you know, did eventually, well, not even eventually, they did initially, you know, want to be on board with us and want to kind of go on the journey with us. So it was great.
Testament to you as well, Amelia, I must say. It was a real kind of team effort to maintain that. And I think, it's trust is so important, isn't it? And I think, in making anything like this, when someone is opening up their lives and their experiences to you, and I think, it's just making, I suppose it's getting on with them and, spending time with them and all the kind of off-camera stuff and all the chats that, not necessarily about making a film, or, and all the groundwork that Amelia put in and Fran put in, and Gussie, who was on the film, who was on the project as well, put in beforehand, to kind of, make Alex and Andre understand that, we want to do it justice, and to honestly do it justice, and not just say that you're gonna do it justice. I think that's the key, really, is, because you can often tell contributors things, but I think if you're not, you need to be honest and believe it, and they'll be honest and believe it, so, and you'll be on your way.
And so, like, that's interesting about kind of all that groundwork and building up that trust. And, I myself have worked on documentaries where it's contributors that are, for whatever reason, vulnerable or sensitive, or, they're on a journey. And it's like, how do you strike the balance between, building that trust, becoming their friend, but also remaining professional and making sure that you are getting what you need, producing the scenes in a way that, is different from that relationship you've built off camera?
I feel like we'd be so rich if we knew that answer.
Hard.
I don't know. I think you just...
The $1 million question.
Yeah, and just kind of, you just have to use your intuition with it, I think, and know when, once you build a relationship with them that's so close, and like we filmed with them for, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks in London, pretty much every day. So it was quite an intense filming period, not just for us, but for them, who'd never done anything like this before. And I think you just have to take each day as it comes and kind of understand when there's losses, but then also there's the peaks of kind of things happening which you weren't expecting as well, and just kind of knowing when to step back and when to go for it, I guess.
That's it. It's exactly that. I'd say it's kind of feeling your way through it, and being aware of everyone's feelings, and not being like a kind of a steamroller, and kind of pushing people to places where they don't want to go. It needs to be, especially something so sensitive, people need to want to do what they're doing for themselves, and need to understand why they're doing it, and because of Andre and Alex's kind of, not say reluctance, but kind of sensitivities around the media, we spent a lot of time kind of explaining why we were doing things, what the point of it was, and just making sure that they're okay with it, because some things in TV just seem weird to people, don't they? And I think that went a long way, just all our conversations, just making them kind of know what they were doing, and not just imposing something on them, and bringing them, I think bringing people along with the process is really important. Otherwise, people feel like they're having something done to them rather than doing something themselves, especially with something like this, which is a kind of authored film, and it's it's Alex's voice and Andre's voice that needs to come through.
So did you were you self-shooting on this, Dan?
Yes, yeah, all of it, yeah.
So you didn't have an additional crew working?
Oh, well, we did, didn't we, Amelia? Yes, because one, a few days of Barcelona filming that I never made it to because of various visa issues. My visa never came through in the end, and Amelia did. And Amelia went to Barcelona with the DOP for a couple of days. So there's a couple of days in there with the Barcelona DOP. But yeah, the majority of it, I shot it all, and yeah, it's just kind of handheld, FX9. We've got some nice kind of C prime lenses to kind of give it that real kind of filmic look. But yeah, and just not having, trying to strip it back as much as possible as well, and not have loads of gadgets and, lots of all the trappings of TV around us all the time. And, it needed to be pretty lightweight, and also to make them feel comfortable as well. We didn't, we shot master interviews, but they were on certain days, but then the rest of it, it's a bag with a camera, and you don't want, especially people like Andre and Alex, to feel like they're on TV, like TV's in town. You need them, I suppose, to be at ease and, kind of forget about it for the most part. And it just be a kind of, a conversation between all of us, and, it happens to be a camera there.
Yeah, and I think that kind of the idea of like you say, that they don't realize that you've pressed record, almost, that you can just sort of be there and the camera's there, but you've built that relationship with them to the point where actually that it's just a continuous conversation, whether you're pressing record or not. They're just the same with you, and that's kind of like the ultimate kind of holy grail, isn't it, of ObDoc. So do you want to tell me a bit about how you decided who to go and visit, what the other contributors involved in the program? How did you decide who you were going to do that? Was that kind of something that you guys looked at, or was that a collaboration?
So, I mean, Amelia found most of these amazing people. Let's just put that right out there for the start. But I suppose the direction that we wanted to take was that we wanted people that were closely involved with the story, that had met Alex or had kind of some kind of dealings with Alex or Andre along the way. And, so that there was a personal connection there, rather than people that were, one step removed, or knew about the case or whatever. They were as much a part of it as Alex, in a way. Well, not obviously, not quite as much as Alex, but they were, integral to it. And that was the way we went. And Amelia went about finding all these amazing people that were kind of, hadn't been, looked upon for, 20, nearly 30 years. So
yeah, it was I think I just take social media for granted, because obviously this is in 92, and it was just Facebook obviously didn't exist, so it was quite difficult, and it was sending a lot of letters as well, and just using word of mouth really to try and get in touch with these people. But yeah, obviously when it's 30 years ago, it's quite difficult to track people down. But yeah, we did get there in the end. Sorry, my thing fell down.
and so and in terms of and sort of Alex being involved with, I suppose, creating those scenes, those real natural scenes of him meeting those people for the first time, and really that was such an incredible watch from a viewer's perspective, to actually get those first meets. And then also as the scene evolved, you got everything was transpiring in front of our eyes as a viewer, and that was really great. Was that a conscious decision to structure the film in that way?
Yeah, I mean, you want those sort of meetings, I think, to be natural meetings, and that the way I suppose the way I've tried and approach those sort of things is when they meet on camera, they should meet for the first time, you know, and I think in all those cases, Alex hadn't spoken to them beforehand. I'm trying to think if he had or not with those people. I don't think he had. And so they were genuine first meetings, and I suppose it's a real. It seems a bit kind of stupid to the contributors on the day, because you kind of go in, I don't think you should meet, you know, just, you know, stay away from each other, or, you know, all, you know, you put in kind of everyone in different positions, I suppose, so that when you can go, right, okay, off you go and meet each other, I can just step back and let them chat and meet, and, you know, and it's as natural as possible. And I suppose that's the way I've always gone about it, in just, you know, rather than just doing everything for real, I suppose. I think that's the key, as much as possible, you know, with, you know, all the trappings of TV around, and I think that's the key, and it's stepping back and not getting in the way, letting things play out, you know, being hands off as you can, I'd say, let people be who they are.
And so, Amelia, what would you say you sort of, what was your sort of role on this documentary, and what did you learn from Dan and just working with these contributors? Like, what, you know, tell me a little bit about that from your perspective as an AP on this doc.
The kind of, I don't know, the main thing I learned was kind of how to like move forward intuitively with kind of how to work with contributors, or, you know, work and step back rather than to, you know, sometimes like when you let that, that's a lot better than jump. So that was really thing. I also learned how to drive around London in a minibus. That
was fun.
We're running a little bit out of time, but I just wanted to cover this idea of the sort of perspective of the film coming from that sort of the victim's point of view. I suppose this might have gone right back to that kind of commissioning stage and kind of winning that commission. You know, do it like you say. There's been so many films about this story. You know, why did you decide to go down this like ethical approach of focusing just on the victim? And you know, do you think this is more, we'll see more of this? Because, you know, true crime, there's lots of appetite for it. You know, a lot of documentaries will go down the more sensationalized route and really focusing a bit more on the detail of the murder, and, you know, and the sort of murderer. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
I suppose it's a path well trodden, isn't it? Especially with this sort of story, and especially with, you know, true crime at the moment. It's kind of, you know, it's very popular, and there are so many of those kind of Netflix style type documentaries that are kind of seeping into kind of you know, the UK broadcasters now. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, and there's some brilliant documentaries out there, but we had the opportunity to do something different, because we had Alex and Andre, and, you know, and they wanted to come back to the UK and you know, revisit their past. And I think what they wanted to do doesn't lend itself to that sort of kind of format, I suppose. And you know, it's a story that you know, it's a personal story, and it's their kind of personal reflections and how they've got to be where they are today, and, you know, and that is very separate to the crime story. The crime story, as I said, has been told a lot, and you know, we had to put it in there, but and we tied ourselves in knots a little bit in the edit, trying to kind of work out, you know, how, where and how we do it. But, you know, or you know, from day one, I suppose the idea is that the focus of the story is Alex's story, and, you know, how Alex has, you know, got to where he is today, and the effects all this has had on Alex. And, you know, we didn't want to lose sight of that. And, you know, there was times when we were kind of getting dragged into the Colin Stag and the honey trap, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But, you know, we had to kind of, I suppose, remain focused on what our story was, and that was Alex. And, you know, and I suppose we also focused quite clearly in the time period of, you know, what, from when it happened to when they left the UK. And the police investigation went on for, you know, years. But, you know, the main focus of our story was, you know, those months leading up to their kind of departure. So yeah, that's how we approached it, really. It's just, I suppose, you could make a great documentary, make a great kind of true crime documentary about it. And, you know, there are lots of different contributors out there, and you know, you could you know, you could tell a really gripping story, but that's just not the route we chose to go down, really. And the way we handled the contributors was different to that as well. So, you know, in a lot of these sort of films, the interviews are interspersed throughout the film, but we, you know, we only broke that once with Jean, but we wanted to have them as, you know, separate kind of encounters where, you know, that told a specific part of the story relating to Alex, where it would have been a lot easier to just spread them out through the film and have them kind of tell the story. So that's just how we approached it, really. I just think because of Alex and what he wanted to do, I think it lent itself to that sort of a film, really.
Oh, well, you must, yeah, go on, Amelia.
I think as well, with, like, when we were developing it, it was really clear that Alex had never really like had his own voice heard. Like, he'd always had like headlines written about him, you know, what he was going to be like in the future. There's like art and stuff like that. Same with Andre Code and stuff. And throughout that, or Stag or whoever, but that, so we always felt really important at time to.
You're breaking up a bit again, Amelia, but I think I got the gist. I know it's Wi-Fi problems all around today for us all, but no, I think that, you know, the overall sort of feeling that you're left with is that one of hope as well, that, you know, that hope can come from such a tragic situation, and that, you know, that's testament to you guys for bringing that across, and you must be both really proud of what you've made. Oh, well, it's amazing to talk to you both, two brilliant Northern talents, and thanks for coming on to TVTN North and telling us all about it. Thanks for kind of giving us the insight, really. So we'll see you again soon, hopefully.